Live. This is Law Call.
Hey, good evening. Welcome everybody to Law Call, where you can ask us anything tonight. I've got Ted Howell in the house, and we're taking your questions live on air, 850-392-1544, or you can email us at lawcall@wmbv.com. But let's welcome Ted Howell into the house first. We've got an email question that just came in.
Right.
Let's get to that as well. But Ted, good Thanksgiving?
Yes, sir.
Tell us what you did, man.
I was out vacation a little bit, so it's good to be back in God's country.
But you did see that the Gators won.
They did. They
All
did.
right. Well, we're going to get past that. Alabama won, Florida won, Roll
Yes.
Tide. Here we go.
But we love all schools.
We love them all right now. The season's basically over with now. We've got an email question. Let's take that real fast. My husband was seriously injured at work due to a defective machine and will be in the hospital for a while. Does him receiving workers' comp mean we cannot file a personal injury claim? Ted Howell, we've had a couple of cases like that.
Yes, and that's a very good question, and it's one that people are not very familiar with, unfortunately.
Right.
And the answer is absolutely there can be, with certain caveats. You got to, I mean, obviously the workers' compensation program is a quid pro quo. There's this for that, and because of the benefits you get under the comp system, outside some very exceptional circumstances, you're not going to have a claim against your employer. But in a situation like this, where you're talking about an injury in the work environment, where it's possibly a defective machine or equipment, you might have what's called a product liability claim. You could have outside third parties who are actively negligent in the scenario. I know you have a case right now, Larry, that deals with a situation where a maintenance crew was in and came in and did some, had some failure to use reasonable care when they were in there with that equipment and caused an accident. We have several others that we're investigating very heavily right now. But it's absolutely something that needs to be explored, and it's something that would be almost impossible to do without the assistance of a professional.
You have to get an attorney on this, Kelly, and you don't want to be going alone.
No.
Because if inadvertently you can do something that would foreclose all of your rights.
Big time.
If your husband has a workers' compensation claim, he has a duty to cooperate with workers' comp. And then if there's a potential what's called third-party claim, where it's somebody other than the employer, then your workers' compensation adjuster and attorney has a duty to cooperate with you. And that's the same way as it is here in Florida, as it is in Alabama, same way in Georgia. That at least is the same. You have a 2-year statute of limitations in all 3 states. So I don't know where you're calling from tonight, Kelly, or your email came in from, Kelly, but hopefully that gives you a little background, a little bit of help. And we talk about investigation. When should somebody call an attorney, Ted, and why is it important to investigate, especially if it's potentially a defective machine?
No, in these scenarios, you cannot do it too quickly. Obviously, anytime you have a serious injury, the first concern is getting the medical attention and taking care of your immediate needs. But as soon as you can get that under control, you need to get an attorney involved so that they can make sure essential evidence is preserved. Not only as you were referencing or alluding to there, Larry, the equipment, making sure that's properly maintained, preservation letters are sent out, but you want to make sure that there's many times camera, videos, you want to get that stuff preserved.
And securing the product as well. I mean, we've got a particular product liability case. We're not going to mention the specifics of it, but somebody was in the hospital for a period of weeks and the product may have gotten away. What happens in that situation? When I say gotten away, it was thrown away.
Right. I mean, it can, potentially, depending on how the scenario fits, who threw it away, what happens. I mean, you could potentially have spoliation of evidence issues if it is in a third party's hands. Now, if it's in your own hands and you were the one who let loose of that could potentially eliminate your claim if that item, the defective item, because not only do you need it to prove your case, the defense or whoever the target is going to have that. They have due process rights. They need to have the opportunity to inspect and look at it on their own. So make sure and contact somebody before you do anything so that you know your rights. Information is key, Larry. I mean, that's one of the things we provide more than anything, especially on the front end, is getting the information so that you can make an educated decision for you and your family on what the appropriate path is for you. And you don't know what you don't know.
One of the other things that people sometimes are concerned about is what's it going to cost them?
Right, and the beautiful thing about the the mechanisms that we have is that we are a purely contingency fee-based firm, which means we only get paid if and when we recover something. So we're not charging an hourly fee, we're not charging a retainer, and even the costs that we incur are not an expense to you unless and until we make a recovery. And in cases like this, when we're talking about these product defect, manufacturing scenario situations are very expensive and can be very, very costly.
We can have $5,000 or $10,000 in expert witness fees, and that goes out, and if it ends up not being a case, Leslie, your family would not be responsible for it. I mean, Kelly, I don't know why I want to call you Leslie, I'm sorry, but Kelly, you and your family would not be responsible for that.
But this is, you know, in these cases more than any, it's critical that you get professional, because you know that the other side, these companies, these major big companies, are going to have professionals helping them every inch of the way and even beforehand.
Right.
And so you're behind the eight ball if you don't have somebody helping.
We've got a particular product case that's in our office right now, and a national firm came in from Kansas City this past week to take deposition testimony. The local firm for the defendants are out of Jacksonville, and then they have local firm that's representing them here. So, you know, we had 8 people that they can only ask one at a time. Right. But we had 8 attorneys on the other side who was prepared to ask questions.
Lots of man hours going in and trying to protect that company in this scenario. So you need to have somebody that's helping you, providing you with the information, getting it to you so that you can make sure that you're protected and justly compensated if there is a claim that can be pursued.
Yeah, and another question, you know, that Kelly may have, I get your name right this time, Kelly, so hopefully we do that, is, you know, can you use a firm that's relatively local like our firm or somebody like our firm?
Absolutely. And you know, look, Larry, if it gets to be a situation where it is, you know, some of these are more specialized. And if it is a scenario like that, we do get someone involved to assist us with us, and that does not cost you any more. No matter how many attorneys you have working for you on this side, there is only one attorney fee that can be paid. That is governed by the Florida bar rules, and all states have similar rules. And so that does not cost you more to have that effective counsel that you need for whatever the situation is. But that's not something that would be very easy for you to determine on your own, and you need someone to help you with that.
Every now and again, you know, we hear it. I hired some law firm from, and I've got 3 cases that come to mind right now just in the last quarter, let's say. I felt like I needed to get somebody from out of town to help me, and things didn't go as planned.
Right.
And then and we don't hold it against you if you say, hey, look, you know, do you mind taking over the case? Do you mind having a second opinion? But you want somebody local because they know the lay of the land. They know how to get things sometimes that the guys and the ladies at the bigger firms don't know where it is or know how to get it.
Those relationships that are built over years and years are very essential to making sure that you know who to ask the right question, who to go to get the information, because as in many things in the law, speed is king. And you want to be able to get that stuff as quickly as possible and get it locked down and figure out what path you need to take in order to get you to the resolution you're looking for.
And as well, you want to make sure that you're using a firm that does personal injury work.
Yes.
You know, again,
a lot of people put it on their website.
Two other cases come readily to mind right now that have just come into our firm the last couple of weeks where you know, that was my husband's best friend from high school who wanted to work on this case, and he said he could help me out and he could do it. And it, you know, again, the website says I can do personal injury work, but not anywhere up to par that we would have
and
here.
You're entitled to interview the people that you're going to hire. Make sure that look them up, do your due diligence, make sure that you're comfortable with who you're hiring. We're not offended if we get asked questions.
No, and
you should.
You should. It's your responsibility. It's your case, and you want to make sure that you have somebody that's, you know, can take somebody, as we say, to the mattresses. Of course, you know, I got to throw in the Godfather reference because it was the Godfather Marathon on Thanksgiving, and I had to watch a little bit of it. For of us of the older generations, we enjoy watching those kinds of things. But as you go through, you know, so we've talked about cost, we've talked about the, you know, having the local law firm, having somebody who can front the money for the case as well. We've got, you know, different scenarios where somebody says, well, yeah, I'm going to do that. Give you another just prime example case readily comes to mind. This third, you know, somebody hired a law firm and it was a medical case. And in a medical case, you have to have every sliver of paper. You can't go in and say, I just have this paper and I've got that paper. Can you give an opinion? You got to have every sliver of paper. And this lady, hired a law firm, again, kind of the situation, out of town, out of sight, you know, thought it would be better to go out of town. And she says, but I've got all of my medical records. And she sent them to us, and unfortunately, she didn't have all of her medical records. And, you know, when you're talking about something where you have to do sometimes a second-by-second timeline, a minute-by-minute timeline, and then, of course, a procedure timeline, you've got to have everything in there to verify what somebody is being told and what somebody's, you know, being said.
Right.
If you don't have that information and you don't have those kinds of details, then it's very hard to prosecute a case. It's very hard to be successful in the case. But you got to spend the money and you got to get it.
Right. And look, Larry, how many times have we been told when someone comes in, this is everything. I've already done all your work for you.
Yep.
And I don't know that I've ever gotten a complete file. And look, no offense, but that's what we do every day. You don't do that every day. And so you don't know who to ask or where to request.
And every now and again, we're shocked. And we do get, you know, I had a lady come in one time basically with a tub, everything kind of laid out, and she did a marvelous job with it. You know, but that's a rare occurrence. When
Sometimes we get some former paralegals or some former that have it all in line.
Folks, phone lines are open, 850-392-1544, or you can, if you don't want to go on the air, you can email us at lawcall@wmbb.com. You got Ted Howell.
Yes.
Ted and I both are licensed in the state of Alabama, state of Florida. I happen to be licensed additionally in Georgia, and been pro-hocked now into Mississippi, Arkansas. Don't want to be asked a question. West Virginia got a verdict up there. Hopefully that comes back soon, and with a favorable, we had a favorable verdict for our client. We're hoping that it gets upheld on appeal. But you know, that's what we do. So we you know, we've got that local flavor, the Panhandle flavor, where y'all kind of grew up, and I'm kind of transplanted in. But I grew up in a small town, and then of course in Bessemer, Alabama as well, where got a little bit of the country, got a little bit of the hood. For my folks that know me up there, you know, I can shoot a squirrel, skin it, and cut your breath. I mean, I tell you, we'll go right after you. But folks, phone lines are open, 850-392-1544, or email us at lawcall@wmbb.com. I tell you what, we're going to take a quick break. I think we've got somebody that may be coming back on the line, so stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few moments. And welcome back to the Thanksgiving edition of Law Call. Hope everybody had a great turkey day, hopefully filled with joy and family. Phone lines are open, 850-392-1544, or you can email us at lawcall@wmbb.com. We do have an email question from Jill. Do we have that one ready? Or do you want me to go ahead and just read it out? Okay. All right, Jill. I'm separated in the middle of a divorce. My husband just got a settlement from a car wreck. Even though I wasn't in the wreck, do I have a right to any of that money? Jill, that's an interesting question, a very good question.
Yes, it is. I don't know that I know the full parameters of the answer.
We can't get it from the email, but we can kind of go through the case.
Yeah, some of the issue depends on the date of separation, because typically personal injury lawyer here, but back from the bar exam days, the marital estate is kind of determined before separation or date of filing. So there's a potential scenario there to whether or not that's a personal claim post filing or before. And then there is some scenarios in there where you might have a consortium claim,
right.
Which is if you have, if your spouse is injured in an accident, and in the extent that that injury causes damage to the relationship and requires you to do more around the house, support and services, things of that nature, then you would have a potential claim, that portion. And then if there's a loss economic portion
right.
of it, like income. Now the actual pure pain and suffering, medical bills and things like that, that's not going to be anything that you're going to have any entitlement to, because that's personal to that individual himself.
Right. But if there is a claim that's there, and if they were married at the time, at least technically, there
it's
is
something
that
that's
claim.
subject to debate and that needs to be discussed, and you need to make sure your divorce attorney knows about it and is properly vetted through all those channels and spliced out to whatever it can be, because you don't want to leave anything on the table, so to speak.
Well, you also have that, we talk about that loss of consortium claim, and years ago, it's after, or coming up on 11 o'clock, we
right.
can talk about
yes.
this. So years ago, it used to be only about sex, and it used
yes.
to only be that the man had the claim when his wife was injured, because going back 100 plus years now, a woman was considered to be the man's property.
Yeah, property.
Chattel. Don't do that. But don't do that to me. Don't use them fancy legal terms. So if a man's wife was injured and could not perform the marital services, let's say, then the man would have a claim for loss of consortium. Now in modern days, as we move forward, it's equal 50-50 can
right.
be. And the loss of consortium is a disruption in the marriage, and it
impacts that relationship
right.
in any way.
Right, and so you and I have a case that we're working on where at least there's that component to it, where there's very serious injury that took place, and it has very seriously disrupted the family relationship.
In all aspects.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so are they getting divorced? Are they talking about divorce? Are they going to counseling? Yes, they are. But also the nature and extent of it is something that will be discussed behind closed doors, and something that will be worked out in the event that there is a separation and ultimately a divorce.
But that is something you always have to think about when you're pursuing a consortium claim in a personal injury lawsuit. But anytime you file a lawsuit, a lot of those things that we consider private and confidential are subject to discovery and open to be looked at. So that's something we always have to have frank and open discussions with our clients about, look, we're going to pursue this claim. You have to be ready to answer questions about
right.
other things that could be impacting that relationship.
And so, when you're talking about loss of consortium, has there been other infidelities that have taken place? Is your husband or wife addicted to something that's on the cell phone or the internet? And those things do come out, and they say, well, it's none of your business. Well, you're the one making that claim.
Right.
So,
the only way to make it none of the business is to drop the claim.
Drop the claim, not have the claim.
Right.
But the interesting thing, how did we get on this, by the way? I know Jill asked the question. But, you've got this situation, though, sometimes where it does have a disruption of the intimate marital relationship. And in the intimacies that we talk about, we always like to try to talk about them as if you're sitting in the Sunday school class
right.
at one of the First Baptist churches. You don't want to say, get in there to positions and frequencies and durations and whips and chains and lions and tigers and bears, oh my, all those different things that may go on in your privacy of your bedroom. But there are certain circumstances where that might be important. So, Jill, by the basis of your question, you need to, talk it over with a, personal injury lawyer. You also probably need to talk it over with your divorce lawyer and make sure that all of the lawyers are on the same page and making sure that you're fairly treated in this particular situation. So I hope that answers your question, Jill. Let's see. We've got one more question here. That came in by email, Greg from New York. There we go. I just moved here from New York. Can you please explain stand your ground law? And Greg, we're only going to talk about it in the context of the state of Florida because
it's different depending on where you are. Florida has a very, very strong stand your ground law that applies not only in the criminal context but also in the civil context. And we're going to focus on the civil context, obviously, because that's what would be something that we would potentially see and that you would be able to either use as a defense or have to go against, depending on where you stand. But more or less, in the general common law, you would potentially have a duty to retreat under certain situations, which means if someone engages you, you can't just Wild West draw on them and gun them down. Now, under certain circumstances under the state of Florida, if someone breaks into your home, you do have a right to use what's called deadly force in order to protect you and the other occupants in your house. And that extends also outside, potentially the castle doctrine, depending on, most notably in your vehicle, and potentially if someone's using deadly force to you in a public space as well. And if that is the situation, not only are you immune from criminal prosecution, but you're also immune from civil liability. And the way the statute has been drafted, there's some very, very strong presumptions in favor of allowing that, especially in the home. Essentially, if you break into someone's home and someone shoots you, they are going to be under very, very limited exceptions. They're going to be immune from any sort of civil liability at this point.
So it provides you an immunity, but it's not an absolute immunity. There's got to be,
there's factors you have to meet and things, scenarios you have to be set, but it's pretty, the way the legislature has drafted it, it's very vague. It's
very vague and open to interpretation, but very liberally construed.
Yes, it has been by the Florida.
In favor of the person using the force.
Against
somebody who...
Surprisingly so for most people, when they sit down and read it and look at it. It was shocking to me how broadly it has been interpreted, even over the language.
Right. But what about at bar fights? I mean, I'm gonna kick you. Somebody spills a drink on you, and the next thing you know, I'm gonna kick your rear end. Let's take it outside. Let's do this. The stand your ground stuff is going to have a hard time.
It's going to have a hard time, but it's going to be in play and it's going to be argued. But it's going to be difficult. It's always better to let the law enforcement come in and take care of the situation and not to take matters into your own hands.
If you can make a retreat, make the retreat if you're safe to do that. But if you start following somebody out to a parking lot, you start following somebody.
Now you're chasing somebody, following somebody, you're going to have real problems.
Chasing them in your car, things of that
Not
nature.
only is it morally and ethically inappropriate, you're going to have some criminal and civil repercussions from that.
So it's not a carte blanche. You don't get a free, get out of jail pass. But you do have some protections here. Just use your common sense, and if you start to pursue somebody, you're probably outside those boundaries.
Right.
Folks, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back in just a few moments. Phone lines remain open, 850-392-1544. It's Ask Us Anything. We'll be back in just a few moments. All right, let's do that. And welcome back. We took a telephone call from Henry out of Dothan just a few moments ago, and he said that he has an AC unit that's got a 5-year warranty. He's had nothing but problems with it. What can Henry do to get the person to come back out?
Right. Henry, obviously you have a warranty as a contract. That's a legal obligation for them to, pursuant to the terms of that contract, to do whatever it takes to make that AC properly working, at least respond to you. So, Henry, you know, you've tried the diplomatic approach. Now it's time to get someone to assist you. Typically, you would start off by, you know, you don't necessarily run to the courthouse. You would hire a professional to write this company or gentleman a letter to say, hey, you have a warranty, which is a contract. Honor this thing. But you need to do this sooner rather than later, Henry, because even though it is a warranty and it's 5 years, you know of a breach at this point in time, so you need to act. And if he does not act, respond written request, go to the courthouse.
And also document your requests that you're making.
Right.
Either follow it up with an email, phone call, text message, and a diary that you keep up with. And that way, when you get it to an attorney to write the letter, that, you know, the first 2 paragraphs are, you know, and he contacted you again, and he contacted you again, and he contacted you again. Folks, we've had a good evening tonight, a great time on the show. We've got some shout outs to get to, though. Henry, we've got your number.
Yep.
We'll give you a call tomorrow and make sure that we've kind of covered everything with you. But let's go ahead. We got a couple photographs up there, too. Hey, there's my beautiful wife and Victor and Marita out at Big Bag Breakfast. Let's go to the next one there real fast. We've got Miss Christina, who travels all the way over to Destin every day. Oh, minute 40. Okay. Well, I'm still going to go through this pretty quickly. So, anyways, Christina, she travels back and forth over there every day. She gets up at she says 5 in the morning. Big Bad Breakfast.
Big Bad Breakfast.
Yes, and so she lives over here in Bay County and travels back and forth to Destin. And she is so smart. She has Uber and Lyft, and she'll pick up rides and bring them back, and she makes it a complete day. I love it.
Always making money on the way in and the way out.
I do. So
very entrepreneurial.
We've got Gary watching, Miss Pam, got Harriet and King watching as well. Martha, my Pam. We got Scott Boudreau that's watching. And I've got a few more. Why don't you go ahead? I'm going to get these others up fast.
I have very few. Just my wife, Heather, and the kids, Judson and Vivian, should be hopefully at sleep getting ready for school tomorrow. My dad, Randy, in Mexico Beach, and my mom, Jan, watching in Mariana.
There we go. We got Holly. We got Stephanie. We got Scott that's watching. We got Miss Patty that's watching. Ray Dean is watching on Facebook Live all the way out in Arizona. Wow, thank you. Melanie, Ashley, Glenda, Johnny Joe Bear over at...
Johnny over in Louisiana.
He's in Louisiana, but he's over on 38 right now. You got Virginia Buchanan watching, Holly, Paul is watching, Mary, Vicky, Donna Crisco. Hey, Donna Crisco, what are you doing up? You got to work tomorrow morning.
Come
on now. Yeah. We got Lane and Amy that's watching, and we got Donnie and Lisa that are watching as well. Miss Myra, Lisa Quick. Quirk, we got your wife is watching. My daughter's watching up in Atlanta. Hey, darling, how are you doing? Darby is watching. Valerie is watching as well. Hey, folks, thank you so much for watching tonight. We'll be back here at the same time, same place next week, and stay tuned. We'll be back.
That's right.